Guys, it's happening. So this afternoon, the Walt Disney Company had their Q2 earnings report, and the newly appointed CEO of the Walt Disney Company, Bob Chapek, announced that on May 11th, Shanghai Disneyland was going to open its doors once again to the general public following its closure due to COVID-19 or the coronavirus. This is very exciting news. It's following a very lengthy closure. Shanghai Disneyland closed on January 24th of this year, and it is now, May 5th. It's May 5th right now, and they are planning on reopening. I think that's next week, if not next week, but the following week shortly after. But my goodness, this has been a long time coming, and it is very exciting. Shanghai Disney is going to be the only Disney World park in operation in the entire world, and that is absolutely insane. And the park reopening, it's a positive sign. It's a positive sign that the world is bouncing back from this virus, and it is coming back, and we're able to resume some sort of normal life. And you know, it only makes sense that the virus originated in China, that they were the first ones hit, and it only makes sense that they're the first ones to really get over it. And it only makes sense that Disneyland is going to be making its grand reopening debut later on next week. It's super exciting. So May 11th is when they're going to be reopening, but it is going to be a very, very different experience from what everyone is used to seeing. It's quite a process to even think about getting into the park, let alone property. And we're going to be talking about that, and I want to get your guys' honest opinions on this subject. First of all, before we get into that, if you're new around here, thank you so much for watching today's video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel. I'm sure there's some videos on the side over here or on this side. Leave a like down below if you enjoyed, and I want your comments down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on today's video and what we're going to talk about, and the procedures and what you're going to have to do to get into Shanghai Disneyland. And more than likely, the procedures and the rules that we see implemented over in Shanghai are going to carry over into the domestic parks. So it only makes sense. They're using Shanghai Disney as the test dummy right now to see what they can do to reopen the parks over here. Now, keep in mind that China is a very different country. It's a very different place. So what they do in Shanghai may not work well over here. So just keep that in mind. You know, it's going to open, and they're going to give it a few weeks, and they're going to see what procedures work, what procedures need to be changed and tweaks. It's going to be a very fluid situation, and it's going to be constantly changing. There's going to be updates all over the place, and as they become available, I'm going to be putting out videos keeping you guys informed, so that way you guys don't miss a thing, and whatever changes over there likely going to happen over here. So I'm just here to keep you guys informed. Thank you so much for watching. So let's get into it. So obviously the park is not going to reopen in its entirety. There are some things that are going to remain closed and some things that are going to be modified. Obviously park attendance is not going to be at max capacity. They're not even thinking about bringing the park to max capacity, because that is just a recipe for disaster. During the Q2 earnings call today, Bob Chapek said that the resort can hold, or the park can hold, about 80,000 people, and they're looking at possibly capping the attendance when it reopens at 24,000, and that's pretty insane. That is a significant drop in attendance numbers. And it only makes sense though, because how else are you going to enforce social distancing? Social distancing is the biggest thing right now. Everyone's staying 6 feet apart, and if you're having 80,000 people in a park like that, there's just absolutely no way to do that. So we have park attendance that has been slashed to 80%. Let's go over some of the other things that are going to be changing. Number one, character meet and greets. Those are going to be gone. There's not going to be face-to-face meet and greets. You're not going to be able to run up to Mickey, give him a hug. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people are going to be going over there, going back to Disney, and you know, people like me, we're really excited to be back, and all we want to do after this whole pandemic is to go back to our happy place and to give the boss man Mickey a big hug, but we're not going to be able to do that, unfortunately, for the time being, for obvious reasons. We don't want a bunch of guests and giving Mickey a hug, possibly getting him infected, and his clothes and everything. It's just a recipe for disaster. So those kind of meet and greets are going to be done away with. That doesn't mean that the characters are going to be absent from the park. We are still going to have characters within the parks and face characters, but they're just going to be at a distance, and you're not going to be able to go up to them and have a meet and greet and get autographs and things like that. One thing that they did announce today, that they are going to be doing a bit of a processional throughout the park, almost a parade of sorts, with a bunch of different characters going through, so that people can get pictures of characters and see the characters. And it wouldn't be Disney without characters, so they have to find some way to make it work. So that's something really cool. Let me see if I can find the name of that processional. During this initial reopening phase, a Disney character procession called Mickey and Friends Express will take place several times daily. So you're not going to have just one opportunity to see the characters. You're going to have multiple, and not only from the parade, you're going to see them walking throughout the park, and different characters showing up in their respective lands throughout the park, which is going to be really, really cool. Also at night, the Enchanted Storybook Castle will also come to life with lights and music each day at dusk, with evening magical moments. So if you've ever been to the Magic Kingdom or Animal Kingdom, you know that they do projection shows on the castle or the Tree of Life. And think about the Tree of Life Awakening show several times a night on the Enchanted Storybook Castle. Just a little projection show, nothing spectacular. It's not going to be fireworks. There's not going to be any fireworks. There's not going to be any parades in the park, unfortunately, when it reopens, because there's no way to really enforce social distancing on a parade route or in the front of the castle during the fireworks. All of that is going to be rolled out and at a later date, once the virus really subsides and the death rate isn't so high and the infection rate isn't so high. Once we have this virus under control, for the most part, is when I'm sure we'll start to see the return of parades and fireworks, hopefully. Another thing that is not going to be open for a while is indoor theaters. Indoor theaters are not going to be a thing. The amphitheaters, I'm sure, I think are going to come back. They didn't really give too many specifics as to what exactly is going to be open, what exactly is going to be closed, but what they did say was indoor theaters are going to be closed off for right now, because it's a very enclosed environment, and yeah, they can enforce social distancing inside by doing every other row and leaving spaces in between parties, but at the same time you're in an enclosed space and just the air, and it's just not worth it to really reopen indoor theaters at the moment. So it should go without saying that, on top of everything else, they are going to be stepping up their sanitation duties throughout the park. They're going to be cleaning literally everything almost every hour, if not even more frequently. If you're in a queue, they're going to be wiping down the handrails, they're going to be wiping down the restraints, wiping down the seats, wiping down tables, wiping down benches, literally anything that can be touched by a guest. I'm sure they are going to be wiping down significantly. I'm going to be putting some pictures up on the screen now of some cast members that have been seen cleaning the park throughout this closure. You can see the social distancing in the queues. They have little spaces that say, please don't stand here. So you have a little space, one party stands over there, a little space, and then another party. You're going to be seeing a lot of that throughout the park, and I'm sure you're going to be seeing that over here in the domestic parks as well when that opens. And cleaning is going to be at a maximum. The park you can literally lick the floor, I'm sure, when the park reopens. It is just going to be that clean. It's insane how much cleaning I'm sure they're going to be doing. Okay, so this is the big juicy stuff that I wanted to get into. The parks are reopening. What do they expect from the guests? What do the guests have to do to get inside the park? If they're going to be capping the attendance at 24,000 when it's normally 80,000 that they can see in a regular day inside the park, how do they decide who gets in the park? What do you have to do to get inside the park? There is a list. And this is where you guys come in the comment section. I want to know what you guys are willing to put up with. And this is what Disney wants to do for right now. So let's read through this list. When Shanghai Disneyland reopens, the following guest requirements will be in place. Purchase dated admission tickets for Shanghai Disneyland before their arrival, as tickets will not be available on site. Annual pass holders will have to make a reservation for their visit date and time through Shanghai Disneyland Resort's official online channels before visiting. During this advanced reservation period, general admission tickets for the park will not be accepted. So you have to go online and purchase a ticket as you normally would. If you're going for just a day, you purchase a ticket as you normally would, but you need to select a date and I guess a time as to when you're going to be going inside the park. It's not clear right now whether or not guests are going to have a time limit. I doubt they're going to have a time limit, but as of right now, it's saying date and time. So I don't know, but you definitely need to go, and you can't just pick up one day and say, I want to go to Disneyland and go. It's not going to be like that for a little while, unfortunately. You need to go in, you need to know what day you're wanting to go, and you need to make that advanced reservation. And if you go in there and there's no reservations available, then I'm sorry, that's it. They're scheduled to reach capacity that day. They're set capacity, and they're not going to let anyone else in. It's gonna suck. I know it's gonna cause issues, especially here at the domestic parks. But that's why I wanted to make videos like this, to keep you guys informed. Because if this situation happens in the domestic parks, you guys need to know. And I'm sure Disney is going to do everything in their power to get the word out there and let people know that, hey, this is what you need to do in order to get inside our parks for the time being. But there's still going to be people who don't do their research and plan a vacation, show up only to be told, hey, the park's at capacity. If you don't have this, then you can't get inside the park, unfortunately. And that's just going to lead to a lot of headaches. So if you know anybody who is planning on going to Disney in the near future this year, send them this video. Send them this video so that they know that what's going on in Shanghai may possibly happen over here. So just to get themselves prepared and in that mindset to pick a date and time ahead of time when they want to go to the parks. Next up on our list for what guests need to do, they must provide basic personal information for each guest visiting, including their name, phone number, ID type, and ID number via Shanghai Disneyland Resort's official online channels after purchasing their ticket and before arriving at the resort. A QR code will be issued after the successful submission of this required information, and guests will be required to present this code before entering the park. So you make the reservation, you get a QR code, you show up to the turnstiles to scan your ticket and get in. You must show that QR code as well, showing that you are allowed to enter the park during that day and you are part of the select group of people that are allowed in the park that day. Guests must also register for the health QR code prior to arrival, which will be required to be presented upon entry at any location at Shanghai Disneyland Resort. Only guests with a green health QR code will be allowed to enter. So you must visit a doctor, I believe. I mean, how else are you going to get a QR code? You either go to a testing site, get yourself tested, and get a QR code, or you go to a doctor and get the green light and get a green QR code. You cannot even get on property without that green QR code. Now, again, there's only so much that you can do. You can be asymptomatic and not show any symptoms and still be a carrier. So I'm not sure how they're going to monitor this, but I guess going to a doctor and getting tested is going to be literally the best way possible to know if you're a carrier or not. And I think that this is a fantastic idea. I really hope that that's what they implement over here, is that you have to either get tested or go to a doctor or do something to get a QR code, so that way you know for sure that you're either not a carrier or non-infected. I think those two can be used interchangeably, and hopefully we can get something like that going over here in the domestic parks once they reopen. Guests must be prepared to show a China government ID card or valid travel document for each guest at the park turnstiles. Photos or printed copies will not be accepted, so you need a valid Chinese ID or whatever ID. If you're visiting, I don't know if it's going to be open for any outside international guests. Not entirely sure. We haven't been informed of any of that recently, but as of right now, it's saying that you need a Chinese government ID or valid travel document. I guess that can mean passports. You need a passport to get inside the park. Guests must also undergo temperature screening upon arrival. That's no surprise there. We've been talking about that for a while over the past few videos. I've mentioned temperature screenings. No brainer. If you have a temperature, you're not getting in. I mean, obviously, if you have a fever, sorry, no go. You can't. You can't be too safe with that. And last but not least, guests must wear an approved mask during the entire visit to the resort, except for when dining. So you walk on property, you must be wearing a mask. You're riding a ride, you must be wearing a mask. Literally anything you do in the park, you must be wearing a mask except for dining, which is going to be very interesting. That is the tricky part. And I'm going to be making a separate video on this subject in the future. Probably when I'm done over here, I'm going to be making a separate video on my thoughts for how this is going to work here in the United States. And to quote Bob Chapek, he said on the call today, "We know how much our guests have been looking forward to returning to Shanghai Disneyland, and our cast is excited to begin welcoming them back. As the park reopens with significantly enhanced health and safety measures, our guests will find Shanghai Disneyland as magical and memorable as ever." Super excited for that. This is the first time we've really heard from Chapek after this whole thing started. I know for a little while it looked like Bob Iger was taking the reins back a little bit as this whole thing started to unfold, but super excited to see Bob Chapek back. Again, let me know your thoughts and opinions on this down in the comments section below. It's very interesting. Again, as the park reopens, we're all going to be paying attention to social media very, very closely, and we're all going to be looking for news as to how this unfolds. And we will see in the next 2 weeks after the park reopens whether or not there is a resurgence in the virus and whether or not the parks need to possibly close again over in Shanghai, and if the parks need to have their closure extended over here in the domestic parks, if it looks like what's going on in Shanghai is not getting any better after the parks reopen. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I'm gonna leave you guys off with this short little video that Disney put out from Shanghai of cast members getting the park ready to reopen next week, and honestly it's a very happy video. It brought a smile to my face. All the cast members are wearing face masks and they're cleaning everything, and it's just so happy. It brings a smile to my face to see the cast members back at work at Disney, because I know so many cast members love what they do at Disney and they work so hard to bring the magic, and a lot of them really want to be there and they really want to make magic. So for them to get back into the parks and to do what they love to do is just absolutely, it just fills my heart with joy. So I'm going to leave you guys with that clip. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Leave a like down below. Let me know what you thought of today's video. What are your thoughts and opinions on this? What are you willing to tolerate? Would you be comfortable with these procedures over here in the domestic parks? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, morning, afternoon, and evening. I'll see you guys in the next video.